Okay, for the integers unit, we had one main goal for this unit, and that one main goal is to teach students how to do operations with integers. And by operations, I mean mainly multiplying and dividing. So the main goal for the entire unit is being able to understand multiplication and division of integers. On the surface, it's quite easy. I've picked two here. You should know by now that a negative times a positive is a negative. So here, -4 times 2 is -8. We said that for our integer rules, if one of the signs was negative, then our answer was negative. And we said if the sign was the same, so if they were both positive, or if they were both negative, the answer was positive. Those are easy to remember, but they don't represent an actual understanding of why. Right? You can memorize the rule, but why is a negative times a negative a positive? How does that make sense? Well, we're going to look at that here as well. -10 divided by -5. We said that for division, the same rules apply. If the sign's the same, the answer is positive. So -10 divided by -5 is +2. Okay? Now, one of the other things we looked at was modeling. And by modeling, we were actually demonstrating an understanding of why the signs were the way they were and why each value in the equation existed. So if we look at -4 times 2 equals -8, it's really important to put into words what that actually means. And in words, what that actually means is remove 4 groups. So the first number tells you whether or not you're adding or removing groups. In this case, it's negative, so we're removing 4 groups. And then the +2 says the groups are +2. So the second number tells us how large the groups are, right? Now what I'm going to do is, we've been drawing this integer circle that represents everything, and we always started with 0. Now the thing is, we can start with 0 as you see it here, or we can start with a 0 pair. For this particular problem, we need to start with a 0 pair, and the reason is, we're asked to remove 4 groups of +2, but there's no groups to remove. So all we do is we represent 0 a little bit differently. We represent 0 like this. Now, in case you're wondering how I knew to draw this many squares, it's just experience. In your case, you might not know to draw this many squares off the bat, but what you can do is, keeping in mind that this is 0, the number of black tiles is the same as the number of white tiles, so this is 0 right now. And we call this a 0 pair because technically, mathematically, this is 0. You might not necessarily know to draw all these, but you can keep drawing in squares until you have enough to work with. And by enough, I mean I need to make 4 groups of +2. So if I didn't draw all 8 of these white squares, I wouldn't have enough. Now what I'm doing now is, I've just broken these into groups of +2, right? Okay, so I've got 4 groups of +2. The first number told me I need to remove 4 groups. So I need to remove 1, 2, 3, 4 groups. If I remove these 4 groups, what am I left with? -8. So if you remove 4 groups of +2, you're left with -8. This explains why the answer is the way it is, right? So this is an example of modeling multiplication. On the other hand, I'm going to do modeling division. So in this case, what the question's actually saying is, asking, is how many groups of -5 makes 10? Okay? So again, I'm going to draw my circle. I'm asking myself how many groups of -5 make -10. With division questions, we're always going to be making this group. So you want to start by representing this group in the circle. Technically, we start with 0, but then I'm going to put -10 in because that's what I'm going to try and represent. The tiles are black because they're negative. Remember, white tiles are positive, black tiles are negative. Okay, I've got 10 negative tiles there. I'm breaking my tiles into groups of -5. Okay, If I have these two groups of -5, do I need to add these groups into the circle or remove them to get -10? Well, if you remove these two groups, you would actually be left with a positive number if we had a 0 pair. To actually get -10, we want to add these groups to the circle, which confirms our answer of +2, our quotient, on this end. So the answer is, if you want to make -10 using -5, you need to add two groups, right? Hopefully now you have an understanding at a deeper level of why the integer rules are the way they are, instead of just memorizing that, a negative times a negative is a positive.